Parikrama on 34 years of rock made music for the soul, not the stomach exclusive some bands burn bright. Parikrama burns steady like a road flare that never dies out, lighting the way for generations of Indian rockers with grit, groove and zero compromise. Formed in 1991, long before streaming, Spotify or even CDs became common in India, Parikrama has been many things: underdogs, headliners, misfits, legends. They never chased trends. They didn't drop a traditional studio album for over 3 decades. They told fans to pirate their music. And yet, or maybe because of it, they built one of the most loyal fanbases the Indian music scene has ever seen. Today, while scenes come and go and genres rise and fade like hashtags, Parikrama remains. Not just because they make great music they do, but because they never lost sight of why they started to play the kind of raw, unfiltered rock they grew up loving. So when they returned to the stage at the 2025 Kazali Rhythm Blues Festival, it wasn't just another gig. It was a full circle moment. A reunion. A declaration that even in a music world crowded with quick content and short attention spans, there is still room for something real. In this exclusive conversation with NEWS18 Shosha, Parikrama opens up about legacy or not giving a damn about it, losing bandmates, playing to disinterested crowds, making music for the soul, and why the next generation might just bring rock roaring back. Nana post shared by Abhishek Mittal. Happy Notes Music Nan. Here are the excerpts. You've been a seasoned performer at the Kazali Rhythm and Blues Festival over the years. How did it feel returning to the stage for the 2025 edition, and what made this year's experience stand out for you? Oh, it was absolutely beautiful. Honestly, I was chasing the organizers to get us on that stage. I kept pestering the management, saying, Jaldi Karo. Because RNB has always felt like home to us. There are a few places in the world where, when you play, it just clicks, and this festival is one of them. Funny thing is, they didn't even approach me initially, I was the one after them. Whether it was my constant nagging or a genuine invite, only RIA or Dolly Ma'am can answer that. But the bottom line is, it's always an incredible experience being with the Genesis folks. We were part of the first edition and also the last one before COVID hit. So coming back after a gap, it felt like reuniting with family. From the cause to the crew, everything about this festival is top-notch. Playing here never feels like work, it's joy. And trust me, we're ready to be back anytime, in any capacity. After more than 3 decades of relentless touring, how do you define what Parikrama stands for today? Has your definition of success changed since 1991 HERES? The thing, when we started Parikrama in 1991, we were just a bunch of young kids who loved rock and roll. Fast forward 34 years, and we're still those same kids, just with a few extra grey hairs and a lot more stories. Come watch us on stage and you'll see what I mean. I can still move better than 10 18-year-olds put together. One of the first rules we set for ourselves was that Parikrama would never be our main source of income. We wanted the freedom to play without pressure, so we made sure we had our household income sorted. That way, we could do what we love, play rock and roll without compromising. Back then, there was no internet, no Spotify, nothing. Singing rock in English in India, that was niche. It still is. But we stuck to it. We didn't just survive, we kicked ass. And we're still doing it. We also took a completely different route from most bands. While others recorded and released albums, we encouraged fans to bootleg our live shows, pass them around, pirate them, whatever worked. We wanted the music to reach people the raw, honest way. That's how we built our following. Our shows were our album, our marketing, our everything. There was a dip in the global rock scene around 2012, I felt it personally. But last year, for the first time in over a decade, we got offers from 7 different colleges asking us to play. That tells me something is shifting. And this year, for the first time, we said yes. So has our definition of success changed? Not really. For us, success is doing what we love on our own terms, with passion and purpose. Parikrama was never a profession, it's always been a calling. And after 34 years, it still feels like just the beginning. From But It Rained to Translucent Night, Parikrama's songs have often held a mirror to society. Do you feel the band's voice has become more political or more personal over time? I wouldn't call it political in the conventional sense. For me, politics is just a reflection of the decisions that affect our daily lives. But have we ever written a song directly about politicians or party politics? Not really. That's because, personally speaking, I don't give politicians that much importance. I give importance to my country, to people, and to humanity. What we've always done is respond to situations and circumstances that move us deeply. Take Translucent Night, for example. That came from something I read about how the number of people needing organ transplants in India vastly outnumbers the number of actual donors. The ratio was so shocking it stayed with us. We researched more, internalized the emotion, and turned it into a song. But It Rained came from a similarly emotional place, rooted in stories that affected us. Even Don't Cut Me Down, which we wrote back in 1997, was about deforestation long before that word was even part of mainstream discourse here. So yes, our songs are responses to real-world experiences, whether they're socially driven, emotionally driven, or even politically adjacent. But at the core, they're personal, We write from what we feel. You famously never released a traditional studio album for decades. Has the idea of doing one ever tempted you, or is it the live experience that keeps Parikrama going? You're right, I've probably answered this question more than a few times, but it's always worth revisiting. Back in the 90s, recording a studio album wasn't as easy as it is today. There were no home studios, no laptops with plugins. You had to book proper studios, spend big money, and go through record labels to even get a shot at distribution. So we asked ourselves, why spend all that time and money just to maybe sell 1,000 or 2,000 CDs? It made more sense to give the music away for free. If people liked it, they'd call us for live shows, and that's where we made our money and built our following. We were fully into the pirate this model at a time when piracy was a dirty word, especially after the whole Metallica Napster saga. But our website proudly said we supported the piracy of our own music. We used to record our shows, make tapes, burn them to CDs, and send them to colleges ahead of our performances with stickers that said please rip and distribute. By the time we arrived at a gig, everyone had heard our songs and knew what to expect. That's how we created a chain reaction of word of mouth across campuses and cities. That strategy worked beautifully for us for over 30 years. But after Sonam passed away in 2020 and COVID hit, we had to rethink everything. By 2022, when we returned to independence rock, we knew that if we wanted to reach the new generation of listeners, the Spotify kids, so to speak, we had to change our approach. So yes, for the first time ever, we've started recording and releasing studio versions of our songs. We've already released 56 tracks and are working on more. It's a big shift from how we operated for decades. Albums may not be the format anymore, singles are. But the point is, you will be hearing a lot more studio releases from Parikrama now. So yeah, it took us 32 years, but we've officially pivoted. You've faced criticism early on for relying heavily on covers and not releasing full-length albums. What would you say to those critics now? Most of those critics were from other bands, honestly. And if you take a moment to look at where they are now and where we are, I think that answers the question. I don't mean that in a rude way, but it's just the truth. See, the idea behind Parikrama wasn't to chase fame or make a business out of it. I was supposed to join the family business in Kashmiri Gate, and I did for the first 16 years of the band. I'd work by day, and do rehearsals and shows at night. Parikrama started because I just wanted to play the music I grew up loving: Zeppelin, Floyd, Purple, Lynyrd Skynyrd, AC/DC, Maiden, The Stones, and then call it a day. We were never opposed to originals. In fact, our very first show had an original called Xerox. But back in the early 90s, it was the norm to play covers. Hardly anyone was doing original Hindi or English rock in India then. It was about having fun. That's how the scene was. With RSJ and friends like Amit advising and guiding us, we gradually shifted focus. In 91 we had Xerox, then Gonna Get It at Ames in 92, and in 95, our first properly recorded track Till I'm No One Again. From there, we kept growing our original setlist. That said, we've never had a problem with covers. We're still lucky enough to be playing the songs we genuinely love, not because we have to, but because we want to. That's rare. A lot of our contemporaries either disbanded or had to pivot to Bollywood or commercial gigs to survive. We stuck to our roots. Today, when we play big festivals like Hornbill, we don't do covers, not because we're against it, but because the audience doesn't need it. But at corporate shows, where people may not know our originals, we happily throw in classic rock covers. What matters is, we're still doing rock and roll on our terms. We're playing more shows than ever, touring, having a blast, and staying true to what made us fall in love with music in the first place. How has Parikrama's songwriter evolved since Sonam's passing, especially with new members like Abhishek and Nikhil stepping in? Traditionally, most of our songwriter came from Sonam and Nitin. That dynamic worked really well for us. We weren't the type of band to sit in a room and start from scratch. It was usually one of them coming in with an idea or a skeleton of a song, and the rest of us building on it from there during rehearsals. After Sonam passed, Metal gradually stepped into that creative space. But over the past year or so, we've really opened things up. Now, everyone in the band is contributing to songwriter. Srijan has written 3 songs. Shashank, our flute player, recently came up with a track that has an 80s disco vibe, something fun and different. Sohail is writing Open Skies Part 2. It's exciting to see the band evolve like this. Mittal and Nitin still lead the charge. For example, Demons of Time was primarily their work. Mittal, especially, is a creative powerhouse. He can spin an idea into a full song in minutes. He's been an amazing addition to the band both musically and energetically. So yeah, the writing process has become more democratic, more diverse, and honestly, more exciting. We're exploring sounds and styles we might never have tried before. It's a fresh chapter for us. Is there a city or country where you were shocked by how well the audience knew your music? It has to be the Northeast. Every time we perform there, we're blown away by how well people know our songs. They sing every word. When it comes to appreciation for Western music in India, the Northeast still leads the way. The vibe, the energy, it's unmatched. Outside India, not really. When we play internationally, we're mostly unknown. We go in as rookies, and people usually discover us for the first time, But the Northeast, that's home turf when it comes to rock audiences. Let's take it all the way back. What did Parikrama's first rehearsal sound like, and who cracked the first joke? The first joke, that was definitely me, no question. I mean, I was the senior in the group, and Parikrama was something I had started for a very specific reason, to play the kind of rock and roll I loved before I eventually settled into the family business. These were all young kids, fresh out of school, and I was the one bringing them together to create something fun, something raw, something real. Our initial meetings weren't even rehearsals, they were long chats. We sat down and talked about what we wanted this band to be. I had played in a lot of bands before Parikrama, and I had seen what worked and what didn't. I took all the lessons, good and bad, and built some ground rules. One of the first was no drinking before a gig. Another, no ego trips. No matter how big we got, we had to stay grounded. We even had this sign outside our rehearsal room that said, "Keep your shoes and ego outside." We wrote it on chart paper in 1991. Years later, we found out Quincy Jones had a similar sign outside his studio. Total coincidence, but kind of poetic. I was very clear from day one that this band wouldn't fall apart over ego. Everyone was equal. No matter how senior or junior, we stayed together, same cars, same hotels, same rooms. If I'm staying somewhere, so is Rohit. If he's coming from Ludhiana, he's still riding in my car, eating parathats and cracking jokes with the rest of us. That's how it's always been. It wasn't about hierarchy, it was about family. Our first actual rehearsal was a mix of chaos and excitement. Chintan, our bassist, didn't even know how to play bass at the time, so I filled in for him. We had this big rolled-up carpet at the rehearsal space, and I used to stand him behind it while I played drums and helped him figure out the bass lines. We were all learning from each other. It was messy, but magical. Even back then, though we were mostly doing covers, we wanted to add our own twist. From our first gig, we were thinking differently. Our first set included a 30-40 minute medley. We blended intros of The Wall, a Richard Clayderman piece, Jump by Van Halen, and so many more. We threw in violins, flutes, all from day one. We were always trying something offbeat. That sense of play, of experimentation, was there right from the start. So yeah, our first rehearsals weren't just about getting the music right, they were about laying the foundation for everything. Parikrama would become a band built on mutual respect, no egos, weird medleys, and a whole lot of laughter. You've performed for crowds of 40 people and 40,000. Which one's harder to win over? That 40,000 crowd was the Iron Maiden gig, March 17, 2007 in Bangalore, and it still remains one of the most unforgettable shows of our lives. But honestly, whether it's 3 people or 50,000, the real challenge is always the same: winning over disinterested people. If you're performing for one person who's fully immersed in the music, that's enough. But 40 distracted people or 40,000 who don't care, that's tough. At events where the crowd isn't necessarily rock-oriented like corporate shows or mixed audience festivals, we tweak our set list, but within our own framework. We never compromise the genre. For example, we hardly ever play Hotel California, but when we do, it's our own version. We add a flute intro, a violin section, we reinterpret it in a way that still feels true to us. We've always had this philosophy: give the audience something that surprises them. Like starting a set with Party Train and ending it with just the outro of Fix You. Or tomorrow's show, we're opening with the first 2 verses of Imagine, segueing into Stairway to Heaven for about 2.5 minutes, and then transitioning into the full version of Free Bird. And yes, we've used Free Bird before. That was our closer back in 2019. We really invest in tailoring every show. If it's a corporate crowd aged 40, we won't go heavy metal. We'll throw in tracks like Whiskey Blues, Open Skies, or But It Rained, and instead of 2020's bands, we'll dive into the Beatles or Dire Straits. Every performance is a curated experience. But nothing beats that Maiden crowd. That was massive. People came from all over Asia. We met fans from Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, you name it. At that time, metal gigs were just beginning in India, and to open for Iron Maiden was insane. That energy was next level. You came up through your college's music society. Do you feel academic spaces still nurture that kind of raw, organic band culture the way Parikrama once emerged from? Honestly, my reason for joining Kirimal College was only because of its music society. MUSOC was the only society at the time that supported music so seriously. They had a proper music room, a dedicated drum kit, which was rare back then. Our teachers Sumita Mohanty ma'am, Kevin Rodas sir were incredibly encouraging. We're still in touch with them today, by the way. They didn't just support us, they celebrated our madness. I'm not sure how many spaces like that exist now. But back then, there was no other college or society in India that championed music and theatre the way KMC did. Alongside MUSOC, there was the Dramatic Society, Players. It was a breeding ground for creativity. That environment made all the difference. So yeah, that's the honest truth. I didn't choose the college for academics. I chose it for the music room. That's where Parikrama's journey really began. You've famously said, make music for the soul, not the stomach. In 2025, is that philosophy easier or harder to sustain? Honestly, it's actually more practical now than ever before. The people who understood this early on, they're the ones still around, and thriving. Back in the early 90s, we made a conscious decision we'd pursue parallel careers to keep the income flowing. If you wanted to do rock and roll for life, you couldn't rely on it to pay your bills. That's still true. Most of us in Parikrama have always done other things to earn our living. Music was for the soul. And yes, I'd give the same advice to younger artists today: don't assume you can live solely off live shows or streaming revenue. Back in the day, all we had were gigs. Today, there are more avenues, but with AI, algorithms, and constantly shifting platforms, who knows what tomorrow looks like. What I recommend to young musicians is create short format content, 10 to 20 second audio bites, for TV, streaming platforms, or branded segments. In the early 2000s, many of us worked with media outlets like NDTV, TV18, and Raga Bell, scoring background pieces, promos, whatever came our way. That extra income kept us going during lean seasons. I've seen many talented musicians burn out because they thought gigs alone would sustain them. 6 months without shows, and suddenly their passion turns into a financial struggle. That's what we tried to avoid from day one, and I'm glad we did. Would Parikrama ever consider formally mentoring younger bands, perhaps through a collective or a label? We're already doing that through our company, Parikrama. We manage several acts, many of whom started young and have gone on to do really well. It's not formal mentorship with a curriculum or anything, but yes, a lot of kids and even their parents now reach out to me for advice. Whoever asks, I guide them. And no, I don't charge for that. We just share what we've learned over the years, because if it helps someone else build something real, why not? Over the years, you've played AIDS awareness gigs, COVID relief fundraisers, and organ donation campaigns. Is advocacy something Parikrama always set out to do, or did it evolve with time? It's never been a planned thing. We've always done what felt right in the moment. Whatever came from the heart, we supported. That's it. I'll tell you a story. The first AIDS awareness concert we did was way back on September 28, 1992. That was a time when people still believed that if a mosquito bit someone with HIV and then bit you, you'd get it too. That's where public understanding was. We'd formed Parikrama just under a year earlier, September 15, 1991. We saved up every rupee we had, requested support from our sound vendors. Shout out to Sandeep Dhawan Saab, who did it pro bono, blocked 4 roads near Delhi University, built a stage ourselves, and spent 60,000 from our own pockets. We tied up with AIMS, I still remember the name of their head, Professor S.K. Kakkar, and handed out pamphlets. We even brought chaddars to clean the streets ourselves after the show ended. There was no event agency, no social media campaign. We just did it. This was before it was fashionable to be socially conscious, before hashtags or Insta posts. And honestly, we still operate the same way. Most of the advocacy we do, you won't find it online. Because we never did any of this for attention. We did it because it needed to be done. You've outlasted entire scenes and movements in Indian rock. What do you hope Parikrama's legacy will be for the next generation of musicians? You know, it's funny, people talk a lot about legacy, but to be completely honest with you, I don't care about it. I've never believed in the idea of heaven or hell, so why should I worry about how people remember me after I'm gone? I've told my family to no boring rituals when it's my time. Just throw a party, play some music, celebrate. That's it. I'm not interested in having roads or buildings named after me. I'm not going to etch my name into a rock and call it legacy. What matters to me is this: if something we did with Parikrama inspires a kid to start a band, or helps someone believe they can follow their own path, great. That's all I need. If people use our model as a case study, learn from our mistakes and successes, and build something of their own, I'm happy. But I'm not sitting here trying to script a legacy. Live in the present. Help where you can. Create when you feel it. That's the only legacy worth leaving. How do you see the future of rock music in India? Is the genre evolving or dissolving in the digital age? I actually started seeing the decline of rock around 2010-2012. Colleges that once had rock nights started replacing them with EDM nights, sunburn nights, Bollywood parties. Rock just vanished from campus culture for a while. But in the last 34 years, I've noticed something amazing: it's coming back. And not just in India. I've been traveling the world, attending big and small concerts, and there's a clear trend: young people are picking up guitars again. Guitar sales are back up. The obsession with synths and machines is waning a bit, and people want that raw, live sound again. Now, whether rock will ever go mainstream again, I don't know. But hey, race, the interesting part: Bollywood's grip has loosened. You're not seeing massive movie albums like you used to pre-Covid. Even major labels like T-Series, Saregama, and Sony, everyone has started investing in independent music divisions. Why? Because indie music is where the excitement is. And let's not forget, rock never left. Take bands like the Local Train. What are they doing rock? Just in Hindi. Or look at East India bands like Fossils, have fanbases bigger than some Bollywood stars. Because they are singing rock in their own language. That's powerful. Even English rock is making a comeback. Last year and this year, we started getting calls from colleges again after a whole decade. I asked one of the organizers why they suddenly wanted Parikrama back. You know what he said? Our parents introduced us to you. Turns out, during that lull in college rock culture, these kids were in first or second grade, listening to Parikrama in the background at home. Now they're in college, and they're bringing the music back with them. Full circle. A literal Parikrama. And that's cool as hell. Latest blogs.